Today's shooting playing out on a Manhattan-bound N train at the 36th Street and 4th Avenue stop in Sunset Park just around 8:30 this morning. More than 9 hours later, that gunman is still on the run. And here's what we know right now. The NYPD confirming 10 people were shot, more than 20 were injured. From what we understand, all are expected to survive. This was a horrific attack, but authorities believe this rampage could have been much worse. Law enforcement sources telling Fox 5 the suspect's gun jammed, preventing him from firing any more shots. And as the manhunt continues, police are investigating a U-Haul truck found in Gravesend, Brooklyn. It's believed to be linked to this morning's attack, that discovery being made just a short time ago. We have team coverage of reporters covering all of the late developments, but we begin tonight with Jessica Formoso, who is live at the scene in Sunset Park with the very latest on this investigation. Jessica, what can you tell us?
Teresa, we've been here since this morning, and this is still an active scene at this hour. Police calling it an active shooter situation, and that is because the shooter is still on the loose. Now, it was pandemonium down on the subway platform here on the 36th Street subway station in Sunset Park. Police say it was a little before 8:30 this morning when the gunman, wearing a gray hoodie and a green construction vest, was riding the train. This was a Manhattan-bound N train, which was entering the station. All of a sudden, the suspect put on a gas mask. He took a canister out of a bag, opened it, and that's when the train filled with smoke. He then opened fire, striking 10 passengers in the train and also on the platform. About 22 people were injured. 5 are in critical condition. Law enforcement sources telling Fox 5 they found a gun at the scene. That gun had 3 extended round magazines. One of the magazines jammed in the gun, which prevented the suspect from firing more rounds. Police are now going through MTA video to determine where the gunman got on and where he got off. Earlier today, the mayor did say that there was a malfunction with the camera system at this particular station. It's unclear at this time whether it was just one camera that wasn't functioning or all of them. An MTA source telling me that the camera system at this station is an antiquated camera system, meaning it's not one of the new ones where they can see video in real time. He wouldn't say, though, whether or not the cameras were or were not working. Police Commissioner Keechant Sewell said that the attack was not being investigated as terrorism, but she was not ruling anything out.
Being reported as a male black, approximately 5 feet 5 inches tall with a heavy build. He was wearing a green construction type vest and a hooded sweatshirt. The color is gray.
The people of the entire state of New York stand with the people of this city, this community, and we say no more. No more mass shootings. No more disrupting lives. No more creating heartbreak for people just trying to live their lives as normal New Yorkers. It has to end.
New Yorkers of all varieties can come together in small spaces and get along and create something bigger. That's what we remember in these emergencies, as well as the tragedy and the thought for the quick recovery of the victims, is New Yorkers are incredibly resilient.
And we are told also by the MTA that right across the platform from that N train, an R train pulled up at that time, and the conductor and operator of that R train acted quickly. They told everyone on the platform to get on, and they took off. Now, we do know that police has a photo of the suspect, but we still do not know his identity. We're hoping to know more in that presser in about 30 minutes or so. But again, we also don't know the motive, but we'll have much more coming up. Teresa, back to you inside.
All right, Jessica, thank you. Now, aside from the 10 people that were shot, more than a dozen others were injured in the chaos that followed. Let's go live to Arthur Sheehan, live outside of NYU Langone, Brooklyn, in Sunset Park, where most of the victims are being treated. Arthur, what can you tell us?
Teresa, I can tell you that a law enforcement source just told us right now that there are at least 29 victims as a result of this mass shooting. There have been different numbers, and let's get into that discrepancy right now. It was at the scene earlier today that officials said 16 individuals were treated at the scene. 10 of them had been shot. 5 of them were critically wounded. But many of the people who were hurt made their own way to the hospitals. You heard Jessica explain right now, one of the trains came in and made the quick decision to get people out of there. That's one of the reasons those individuals might not have been counted. Officials here at NYU Langone tell Fox 5 that at least 21 victims have come in through their emergency room alone. Now, one of the cases that came in here, we're told through a source, is in critical condition and was going into surgery last we checked. Back at the scene, the FDNY commissioner described the injuries in addition to the at least 10 people who were shot.
A variety of other injuries, from smoke inhalation to shrapnel to panic from the incident.
Now, additional victims were brought to other area hospitals. They include Maimonides Hospital, Kings County Hospital, and New York Presbyterian. So 4 hospitals taking in trauma victims. One of the reasons why those numbers continue to evolve here. A lot of people make a point, though, that the help came very quickly in this case for the victims. There are witnesses who say that the NYPD and the FDNY were there almost immediately, in addition to the transit workers who rendered aid. And most importantly, fellow New Yorkers came to the help of those who were wounded, helping make the situation better. In the beginning, we were told that 2 people were in life-threatening situations, but that has improved, and we wonder in part if it's because of all the interventions that were in place today. But right now, for an update, we have at least 29 people wounded. That number may go up as we get a better grip of what is going on today and as we await an update from officials that should be happening any time now. We are live right now in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Arthur Chian, Fox 5 News. Teresa, back to you.
So many helpers and so many heroes today, Arthur. Thank you. Mayor Adams addressing safety concerns that commuters might have about riding the subway tomorrow morning, saying security will be increased in the system.
I have a lot of faith in the transit police personnel that are assigned there. We're going to double the number of uniformed personnel during the evening tour.
The mayor remains under quarantine with COVID, and he's been monitoring the developments on the attack from Gracie Mansion. Meantime, the White House has been in contact with Mayor Adams. President Biden also reacting to the tragedy today in Brooklyn.
My wife Jill and I are praying for those that are injured and all those touched by that trauma. And we're grateful for all the first responders who jumped into action, including civilians who didn't hesitate to help their fellow passengers and try to shield them.
The president says his team will stay in close contact with the NYPD as well as the FBI. Many schools in the area of the subway shooting were ordered to shelter in place. School officials are working with the NYPD to make sure that all of the students were safe. One parent had just dropped off his child at pre-K and was waiting at the bus stop when he saw a woman who had been on the subway.
And there was a lady standing next to me who was like covered from the waist down in blood, somebody else's blood. That she was been on the train, and the person next to her got shot.
My goodness, many students and parents are very anxious. They had to wait hours before that shelter in place was lifted. Well, this shooting wreaking havoc on the subway system. Many lines remain suspended. Others have been rerouted. There are still delays even at this hour. Our coverage shifts to Antoine Lewis, who is live at Atlantic Terminal in Brooklyn with where service stands tonight and also how riders are reacting. Antoine.
Well, riders have concerns, which you'll hear about in just a second, Teresa. But right now, what you can see behind me, shuttle buses that have been deployed since very early this morning, once the D, N, and R lines were taken out of commission. Now, these buses here are replacing the R lines here southbound from the Atlantic Terminal, Barclays Center Terminal here. So that's where the people are boarding. That's where they're getting on now. As you pointed out, though, there are still several lines that have been impacted. Strap hangers coming in and out of the Atlantic Terminal subway station saw message boards like this, letting them know about the service disruptions between Brooklyn and Manhattan and the reason why.
I heard it from the other people who was there. They said somebody got shot at Sunset Park.
Transit officials quickly took the D, N, and R trains out of service as soon as the events at the Sunset Park station started to unfold Tuesday morning. Commuters having to find alternate means of travel. The MTA gave courtesy passes to those with interrupted commutes and provided shuttle buses from the Atlantic Terminal in place of subway lines not running because of the investigation.
For the R-Line shuttle, straight ahead.
I'm trying to get down further near Coney Island.
You understand what's going on and the reason why, right?
Yes, sir.
I've been here since 8:30. I'm gonna go home.
Increased police presence seen at subway stations across the city Tuesday. Here you see officers inspecting the Union Square subway platform. These are MTA officers standing guard in the Atlantic Terminal near the Barclays Center exit. The police presence was a constant throughout the day as New Yorkers had to assess their own feelings on taking the subway this evening.
There are a lot of police around. It's a scary time.
I think it brings a fear to, everybody that's dealing with public transportation. Who wants to go through this? Who wants to not feel safe inside their own environment?
But 27-year-old Andre Cottle was deeply honest about how he feels.
I'm all right, but it's really messy. I don't normally have anxiety, but because of this, it's just messing with my anxiety and stuff. It's making me, while I'm traveling down there, because I was down there for a little bit, all I could think about is the possibilities and what could happen and stuff like that.
So as you come back to us live again, these right here are passengers taking one of the shuttle buses. They're going down to 95th. They're going to Bay Ridge, a little bit further on to Coney Island. Over to my right where we are, that's Charles. He's waiting for the next group to shuffle out. Then he will move his bus across Pacific to pick up the next group of passengers that are getting off of work, that are coming in or being rerouted here along there. So that's what's going on there. We also promised you a couple of updates I want to be sure I pass on to you. The B&W are still suspended. DNR between Brooklyn and Manhattan is partly suspended. The MTA says go check their webpage. Also, we want to let you know that the F and the M, there have been some reroutes there. Check their webpage for sure if you're looking about trying to commute, leaving work now, like around this hour. But this is the very latest. And again, if you are somehow in this terminal, the Atlantic Center, Barclays Center Atlantic Terminal, and trying to find a shuttle bus, then they're on the outside of it, and also right here where we are, Pacific and 4th. That's the very latest from where we are in Brooklyn, T. We're going to send things now back inside to you.
Good advice there, Antoine, for people to just check before they go, because it is quite chaotic. Now,